Hello, those of you joining. My name is Logan. Nice to see you here tonight. Thanks for joining for our free GRE prep hour tonight. What we're going to be doing tonight is a little bit less of sort of a straightforward lesson. So if you haven't come to one of these GRE free prep hours before, first off, you should check out the whole playlist. It's on YouTube. There's dozens and dozens of them where you can watch basically a lesson told straightforwardly by the teacher about almost every topic on the GRE we've covered at some point in this free series. But tonight, we're not going to be doing a straightforward lesson like that. What I'm going to be doing is I am actually going to be doing a quant section live. So it's not going to be questions where I send them to you and you do them and chat me your votes and we talk about how they went for you. I'm actually going to be taking a quant section of questions I haven't seen before as if I was taking the real test. I'm talking out loud about why I'm doing what I'm doing, where am I succeeding, where am I struggling, how am I deciding what I'm going to do. I have to give credit to this idea to a colleague of mine, Reed Arnold, who has done this in the free prep hour series for the GMAT, where he took a quant section and a verbal section in the GMAT and did them live and talked about his thought process. It's a popular episode in that series if you want to go check that out. He actually told me when I told him I was going to do this to give props to another of our old colleagues, Kaylee, who he says gave him the idea. But I've always kind of wanted to do this for the GRE in one of these sessions because I think it can be really valuable to watch someone who is an expert at something do that thing and see how, yeah, they have to go through some of the same processes that you do. I'm going to have to go through all the same processes that you do as you take this test. What I'm going to do is take most of this hour doing the section. A math section is 35 minutes. And then at the end, there's going to be a little bit of time left for like some Q&A and for me to go back and actually review my answers and see if I missed anything, see if I can learn anything from what I see. So a couple more thoughts before we get all the way into this. Here are the rules I'm putting on myself. So here's what you can expect to see. One, I'm going to follow test day rules. So I'm not going to be looking at my phone. I'm not going to be looking anything up. I'm not going to leave the room. I'm going to sit right here and take this section and do it from start to finish in one big go. I am going to narrate my thought process, and I'm going to toss in some like broader GRE takeaways when I have time and when I think of them, things that I might not necessarily be thinking myself, but I want to tell you about why I did what I did. Then you should know I have not seen these questions. It's possible I've seen some of them. I am doing a Manhattan Prep test. So these were written by Manhattan Prep folks. I was not one of them though. And I did the last one on our list, and I've never taken this test before. It's possible some students have sent me some of these questions to help them understand them. If I see any that I'm familiar with and I'm like, okay, I kind of know this one already, I'll try to call that out. And then I do want you to watch for, I might get a couple of questions wrong. You know, even for someone who is a really high performer at one of these tests, it's very difficult to sit down and expect to get a perfect score. There's just a lot of chances for mistakes or overlooking something in the way a question was asked. So if you want to follow along with me and see if you ever get a different answer than me, or if you ever spot a mistake, that could be fun. Here's what I want you to watch for in watching me as someone who I do know this test pretty well. I've been teaching the GRE here for about 4 years. What I want you to watch for me as I do this that I hope you can learn from to make this a useful session. One is how I make timing decisions. A lot of students get really good at the content and still struggle with the timing on this test. So you'll see when am I choosing to guess, skip, or come back to a question? How am I making strategy decisions? So that's like at the beginning of a question, what am I trying? Am I plugging in the answer choices? Am I doing algebra in a straightforward way, etc. And then you're going to see, even if I happen to get everything right, which could happen, I don't necessarily expect that, but even if I get everything right, there's going to be moments where I don't know what to do, and I have to think about a question hard and go back and you know, restart it, or maybe even come back to it at the end of the section if I didn't figure out what to do. So that's about it. I'm feeling a little nervous because it's not a normal thing to do this in front of y'all. There's a few of you here in the room now. Welcome to y'all. Thanks for joining. And then there's going to be many more of you watching online later. And I hope I get as many right as I can. My goal is to get them all right. I accept that might not happen. What you should be seeing now is my whole screen. Send me a quick chat if you're not, just so I know. Throughout the section, I won't be checking the chat. But I'm going to be taking it here on the Manhattan Prep exam platform. And over on the right, I created a little whiteboard space for me. So I'm using a sort of a tablet computer here. So obviously one difference from the real test is I'm going to be writing on my screen like this. And on the real test, I would be writing on paper. But if I did that, then you wouldn't be able to see any of it. So I'm going to use this whiteboard program over there. All right. I am ready to start. So I'm going to start. Again, thanks for joining. And here comes my 35 minutes. Okay, x is a positive integer. Y is a negative integer. Y to the 3x minus 1, y to the 3x plus 1. Okay, so a lot of times I like to plug in a number for this, and I like to start with the easiest number possible. So the easiest positive integer for x would be 1, and the easiest negative integer for y would be negative 1. So I'm going to start with that and see what happens. Negative 1 to the 3x plus 1 would be 4 if x is 1. Negative 1. Oh, that's 3x minus 1, okay. 3x minus 1 would be 2. Negative 1, 4. Okay, so now I see that that's just going to become 1, and that's just going to become 1. Something I know is negative 1 squared, negative 1 to the 4th. They're both just 1 because of the even exponent. Makes me wonder, probably the oddness of the exponent matters. So let's try 2. In this first case, the answer would be C. The same result on both sides. Both quantities are equal. But if I switch x to 2, then I would get negative 1 to the 5, right? Yep, and then negative 1 to the 7 over there. So now the base is negative and the exponent is odd, so I'm going to get negative 1 on both sides. So, okay, I'm going to pick C here. Just quick check. Would it matter if I change y to a negative number? No, because still, whether the base is odd or even. So what is just y to an odd number? No, that's not going to matter. Okay. Gonna have to go a little faster, I think, than that. A refrigerator is offered for sale. How fun. Guess I'm gonna have to do this time. The final price of the refrigerator, if a coupon for $25. Final price of the refrigerator, if 20% off, is apply first and then a coupon for $25 off. Okay, so I like to test with $100. So if I have $100 in quantity A minus 25, so $75, then a 20% discount would subtract $15, so $60. $80 after the discount. Minus 25 would be $55. So I'm going to pick A. 60 is greater than 55. I bet there's a faster way to delete all this, but I don't know it. So I'm probably going to have to do what you're seeing me do after every question. Q is less than 1. Q squared plus 5Q plus 5. Q squared minus 4Q plus 1 plus 17. Okay, so one thing I know is I can basically cross Q squared off of both sides. If the Q squared is in the left and the right, just being added each time, I can simplify this to 5Q plus 5, negative 4Q plus 17. I can also, I can treat this kind of like an equation or inequality. I can bring those Q's over there to make 9Q, and I can bring those 5's over there, subtract 5 from both sides to get 12. Q 12 over 9, and they told me Q is less than 1. So this is greater than 1, so B is the winner. So this is a strategy called simplifying across. And these comparison questions, you can basically pretend there's like an imaginary box there with either a less than, a greater than, or an equal sign in there. So that's what I've just done. And this goes on YouTube. Someone's going to be like, I use that same whiteboard program, and you should have been doing such and such and such and such. So delete notes. 500 to the 10th versus 5 to the 100th. Yikes. I don't like this sort of exponent question because of how you can't really calculate it. So I'm going to think about this while I erase over there. One thing that I try sometimes is factor the 500 into 100 times 5, which is 10 squared times 5, 10. So that's actually 10 to the 25 to the 10th. This is 5 to the 100. Oh, but this is, you can keep factoring 10, of course. So that's 2 to the 20, 5 to the 20. So when you combine that and that, it's 2 to the 20, 5 to the 30, add those. So, okay, B is going to be bigger because there's 70 more copies of 5 right there. That's going to be worth a lot more than those 2s. So B is the winner. Oh, no, do not quite, do not. Okay. C is a positive integer. That's my next one. C is a positive integer. 45 to the C. Okay, I think this is going to be a positives and negatives question. I think this is going to come down to one of A and B is going to be positive or negative. Because 45 to the C is positive. Negative 5 to the 2C, that could be positive or negative, depending on whether the C and the exponent is odd or, oh, no. The exponent is going to be even because 2C is going to be even. So a negative to an even power is positive. Okay, so positive. So A is going to be positive in the end. And then over here, 9 to the 3C is going to be positive. Negative 3 to the 2C plus 1 is going to be negative because 2C plus 1 is going to be an odd number. This part's going to be even. If you add 1 to an even, you get an odd. And if you raise a negative to an odd, you get a negative. So it's a positive versus a negative. A is going to be greater. If you want to know how did I diagnose so quickly if this was a positives and negatives question, well, it's because I've seen other ones like this. And I know that if it's like this kind of multiple thing, like we have happening over there in quantity A and quantity B, and if I see 2C and 2C plus 1 in the exponent, that's classic for there's an odd and even thing happening, switching the results between positive and negative. Okay. Oh, okay. The ratio of arc ABC to the circumference of a circle versus 1/3. Ooh, this is a rule that I always forget, but I think if I remember right, so I think it's true that if you have an angle like this one, the angle from the middle is is twice that, which would mean if this is 60, this is 120. And if that's 120, then this section is 1/3 of the circle because it's 120 degrees out of the 360 total degrees. So I'm going to put C, both quantities are equal. But I'm also going to mark this one for review because this is a formula, this like relationship between the, outside angle and the central angle is one that I know I've gotten wrong before. But I think what I just did is right. Okay. In a normally distributed set of 1,000 data points, the average is 12 and the standard deviation is less than 3. The number of data points is between the number of data points in the set between 9 and 15, 60% number of data points in the set. It's A. This one's pretty niche, but one of the niche statistics things you need to know in the GRE occasionally is that if it's normally distributed, the first standard deviation on each side, it goes in a bell curve like this, is around 34%. So between the two, between 9 and 15, one standard deviation each way, it's going to be around 68%, I think, which is definitely more than 60. Okay. And let's keep going. So I've taken about 10 minutes and I've done 7 questions. It's QC questions, which should go faster than average, so I feel good about my pace. The area of the region versus 128. Okay, this one should be pretty straightforward. The whole box is 12 on the bottom and 15 on the right for the 6 plus 9. And 12 times 15 is 130. But then this chunk is 4 times 9, which is 36. Wait, is 12 times 15 130? No, I think it just messed it up. Come on, calculator. 12 times 15. Yeah, 180. And then 9 times 4, that's definitely 36. So 180 minus 36 is 144. So that's bigger than 128. So I'm going to put A. This idea of taking the big thing and subtracting the chunk that you're not including, that shows up on a lot of funky shaped geometry. By the way, I can't remember if I mentioned this. I don't think I did. One reason, there's a specific reason I'm not drawing on the problem on the left. It's because I can't do that on the real test. I can't draw on the computer screen. So I'm trying to keep my work over here in a separate place. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, square roots are equal to fractional exponents. So y to the 5th in a cubed root is the same thing as y to the 5th to the 1/3 power. And this is 1 over y to the 1/4 power. So this part becomes y to the 5/3. This part becomes y to the -1/4. And when you multiply with the same base, you add the exponents. 5/3 minus 1/4 would put it in 12ths. 20 12ths minus 3 12ths. 17 12ths, I think. Let's see, good. Oh, okay, but E is the 12th root of y to the 17th, which is another way of writing this. This is a pretty rare problem. You don't see the square root sign with these numbers very often. I think I got this, but I'm going to mark for review because I just have a weird feeling about it that maybe I messed up. So if I have time at the end, this might be what I come back to. Okay. Word problem, nice. Angelo has 6 more video discs than Clementine. If Angelo gave Clementine 8 video discs, then Clementine would have twice. Okay, this is a classic word problem where I'm going to need to write 2 equations. Angelo 6 more than Clementine. Clementine plus 6 more than that. That's the first sentence. The second sentence is usually the harder one. If Angelo gave Clementine 8 video discs, then Clementine would have twice as many video discs as Angelo. Angelo gave Clementine 8. So she has 8 less than A. I'm going to write up here, A is Angelo original, and C is Clementine original. I know that when they do these time change problems and exchange problems, it's important to keep track of like what was the original variable versus the new one. I'm going to take my time on this one because I know this is a type of question that can take a while, so I'm going to let it take a while so I don't mess up. Angelo gave Clementine 8 discs. Then Clementine would have twice as many discs as Angelo. Clementine have twice as many discs as Angelo. Okay, so I think it's actually this. Clementine with her 8 new discs is equal to twice of what Angelo would have after losing 8 discs. Okay, so I'm going to put in C plus 6 as a substitute for A. C plus 8 equals 2C plus 6 minus 8. So that's going to be C minus 2 plus 6 minus 8. Yeah. So C plus 8 equals 2C minus 4. C equals 12. Okay. That's one of the answers. And all it says is how many video discs does Clementine have? So it should be C, because this was like a hypothetical if Angelo gave Clementine that many discs. Okay. I'm going to mark this for review as well. Come on, delete. The way my computer is set up, I don't really have a good keyboard right now. That's one reason why this is taking so long for me to erase as well. I'm going to mark this one for review as well. That's just a type of problem where it's easy to mess up. So we're going to come back there if we can. X times x plus 2 equals x plus 4. This is going to be a quadratic. X squared minus 2x equals x plus 4. Move the x over, move everything over. X squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Factoring quadratics, that's what I just did. Doesn't come up a ton. Just helped me out a lot right there. Negative 4 times 1 gives me negative 4. Negative 4 plus 1 gives me negative 3. So this means x could be 4 or x could be negative 1. There's no 4 in the answer choices, so I'm going to pick negative 1. Feel good about that one. I'm actually going to take a stop, kind of take a deep breath here. I feel myself going kind of fast, and I am doing okay on time. I have about half of the time left, and I'm a little more than halfway through the questions. Okay. What's the remainder? Oh, I hate remainders. 13, 17 plus 17 to the 13 is divided by 10. I'm going to come back to that one. I just don't like remainder problems, and I don't like questions where I have to add those giant exponents. Okay, this one I feel okay about, even though it's going to be hard. N squared needs to be divisible by both 24 and 32. 24, the prime factors are 2 squared, 2 times 3, 2 cubed times 3. 32, the prime factors are 2 to the 5th. So in order to be divisible by both of these, n squared needs to have 2 to the 5th and a 3. Needs to have the most amount of 2's and the 3. Okay. 24 is 2 cubed times 3. If we squared that, would it work? Yes. We would have 6 2s and 2 3s. 32 is 2 to the 5th. Would that work? No, it needs to have a 3. 36 is 6 cubed, which is 2 squared. 3 squared. If we squared that, it would only have, it would become 2 to the 4th. That's only 4 2s, so no. 64 is 2 to the 6th. No, it needs a 3. 96 is, oh, what's 96? 6 times 16. 2 to the 3. No. 2 times, okay, this one's going to work. That's 2 times 3. That's 2 to the 4th. Yeah, that's going to work. 24 and 96. In the xy plane, a line passes through point A at coordinates negative. Oh gosh, okay, gotta do some erasing here because we're gonna need to do some drawing as well. Let's delete all that. Imagine like the time I'm spending doing this is the time you spend flipping pages on the real test. Okay. The distance between point A and the x-intercept, which is at 4. Okay. X is 0, y is 4. So the distance between the two x coordinates is 8, and between the two y coordinates is 1. So it's kind of like a triangle. 8 squared plus 1 squared equals c squared. 65 equals c squared. The nearest integer is going to be 8. I feel pretty good about that. Okay, we're on data interpretation with 14 minutes left. Okay, TV viewership by month, by age group. In the thousands. 2009, the average number of East Brunswick viewers of television show Deaf, age 50 or older, is what percent greater than West Brunswick? I think I'm missing some of this. There it is. Okay, what West is blue, East is orange. So I'm comparing. Oh, I just got distracted for a second. It's changing that distracted me. Here we go. I'm comparing East 50 plus versus West 50 plus. Okay, so I care about the top 2 rows. East orange is about, ooh, I'd say that's like 950. And that's about 590. So that's something like 1540 or so for East. West, the blue one is about 750 and about like 480. These are really estimates, so I hope the answers are far apart. So that's going to be 1230. Okay, so 1540 versus 1230. What percent greater? Well, it's about a quarter greater. Okay, they did make it easy. It's like about 300 more, and I know 300 is about a quarter of that. 25% is the only one that's close. Nice. Okay. If the average number of viewers, East Brunswick and West Brunswick, is combined, which age group had a sum of more than 1,600,000 average viewers? Did the previous one have any weird stuff about the thousands? No. Okay. Which would have more than 1600 if we added the two bars together? Okay, this should be pretty easy. 65, no. 50 to 64, yes. 40 to 49, oh, definitely yes, way more than 1600. 30 to 39, definitely yes. I mean, these are like off the charts over here. Everybody's watching Def in those age ranges. And the other ones are all definite no's. These are too low. Okay. East Brunswick, West Brunswick combined, which had more than 1600,000. Yes. Yes. Okay. Whew. Okay. I feel like I went pretty fast on those last two, actually. So I'm going to take another deep breath. I got a little worried about timing there for a second. But those felt pretty efficient. So I'm going to totally clear my workspace, clear my head. I'm like, I personally usually feel good about these data interpretation ones. Other people really don't. Depending on which one is you might take more or less time. There's always a set. By the way, there's a few things I haven't said out loud. If you aren't as familiar with the GRE, the set at the beginning that I was comparing quantity A, quantity B, those are always at the beginning, about 6 or 7. These ones where you're comparing graphs or looking at complicated graphs, they're always about 15 questions in, and there's typically 3 of them. Whew, okay, let's do the last one. How did I get to number 17? Wow, I'm actually pretty good on time here. Approximately what % of viewers of television show in 50 to 64 were West Brunswick? Okay, so this is % of. So this is going to be the West Brunswick folks over the total folks within 50 to 64. So the West, which color is which again? West is blue. Okay. West Brunswick. I'll say 750 again. Total 750 plus 950, I'll say. Okay, so 750 over 1600. Should be a little bit less than 50. I think it's going to be that, but let me just check myself in the calculator here. 750 divided by 1600. 46.8%. It says approximately. I think that's close enough. I'm going to keep it. They just maybe had different estimates over here. 18, geometry. All right. Equilateral triangle ABC is drawn in the plane. Every side is length 10. Okay. I have to find the coordinates of B. So 10, 10, 10. If they're all equal, then I know all the angles are 60 degrees. And I think that might help. I know it's not D or E because this point halfway over is going to be a distance of 5 from the origin. So it's definitely going to start with 5. This part is the height of a 30, 60, 90 triangle where it's 5, 10, and something else. And 30, 60, 90 is X, 2X, yeah, 5, 10, and then this is X root 3. I remember that. This one I really had to memorize. So it should be 5 root 3. 5 root 3. Okay. Knowing your special triangles, 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 helps a lot. 3 eggs in a box containing a dozen eggs have broken shells. 2 eggs are chosen. What's the chance of picking 2 eggs that don't have broken shells. All right. So I know this is going to be the chance of the first egg not having a broken shell is 9 out of 12 without being replaced. So the second one is going to be 8/11. There's one less good shell and there's one less total shell. And I have to multiply, this is the probability of my first one and my second one turning out how I want. That's 72. 12 times 11. And my mind is blanking right now. Come on, calculator. What's 12 times 11? I should probably know that one. 132. I'm going to type in, I'm going to type in 72 over 132. So quick note, and I'll take a detour here that I hope doesn't bite me in the next 5 minutes timing wise. So I could reduce this. So that's also, if I divide by 2 in the top and bottom, 36 divided by 66. Oh, I can keep going. Those both have a 6 in them, so 6/11. So I could write 6/11 in here, but it's supposed to give you the right answer, even if you type in the non-reduced form. So hopefully this is programmed correctly, and that gives me the correct sign. Now I'm going to be mad. I feel pretty good about that. 10 lawmakers. I am number 20. Wow, I am. Okay. I was worried I skipped one. 10 lawmakers are being considered. Okay, this is combinatorics. A rare, both probability and combinatorics are a little bit rare, so seeing them back to back is a little unique. 10 lawmakers are considered to participate in a special committee. 5 will be selected, 4 as committee members and 1 as committee chairperson. How many possible committees can we make? Ooh. This is tough. So combinatorics is the art, you might say, of figuring out how many options are there for a certain situation. There's 10 options for the chairperson. Then there's 9 times 8 times 7 times 6. So I'm going to label these. That's the chairperson. Each of these are just random lawmakers, because I have one less person available each time I choose the next one. But this is going to overcount, because if I pick like Jimmy, Billy, Bob, and Tom, I should have picked a variety of names than those, but if I pick any 4 names and I mix around the order in which I pick them, that's not really a different committee. So I have to reduce my overcounting. And I know that I can do that by dividing by the factorial of like the matching spots. So I think this is going to be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 divided by 4 factorial, which is 4 times 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is the same as 6. So let's go to the calculator. Clear that. 10 times 9 times 7 divided by 4, 1260. Okay. So I'm done with the section. I have 2 minutes to look back at the ones I marked. And there was one I didn't do. I just remembered that. Okay. So I'm going to go to that one first. Come on, load. It was this one. I should have left a guess. That was bad. Bad teaching, because you always want to leave a guess. 13, 17, 17, 13 divided by. Just gotta go there. I'm gonna maybe not speak and tell you what I did after the fact. I want to get this. Okay, so it's a 17th in the pattern. So it's going to finish the pattern. Okay, so this is going to be this one. And this is going to be that one. Okay, so I think what's happening is 13 to the 17 is going to end in a 3. 17 to the 13 is going to end in a 7. And if you add that, it's going to end in a 0. Which means if you divide it by 10, it's still going to end in a 0. I'm going to pick 0. What I was just doing is this is the pattern of results if you raise 3 to the first, second, third, fourth power, 7 to the first, second, third, fourth power, which I know generates these patterns in the last digits. Yeah, my time's up. So I'm not sure about this one, and there's a couple I meant to review and didn't. But that was my attempt at a math section. And sadly, as it says here, I can no longer provide any answers. I'm very interested to see how I did. I do think I got most of them, but I think it's possible I missed some as well. What I'm curious about is if you all have any questions you want to ask me in the chat about how I did that, or how I made certain decisions, I mean, send them over. Thanks y'all for watching. I hope that wasn't too dreadfully boring. And while y'all take a moment to do that, I'm gonna quit my exam so that it should allow me to go back and review the section. All right. Let me just take a moment here to navigate through our platform. Send me your questions if you've got any. And I'm going to sort of try to share some of my takeaways from my experience that I just had, since I haven't seen any questions yet. Instead of sending me questions, I'm actually curious, for those of you who are here, tell me in the chat just what was that like? What was that like watching me take that section? What did you notice? What did that make you think about your own approach to the GRE, if anything? So if you don't have any questions, send me just how did that feel to watch me do that? What do you feel like you observed? You can send it to everyone if you want. You can also send it to just hosts and panelists, and then it's only going to come to me. Give me just a moment because it's giving me a little bit of trouble skipping through the sections. As I work on skipping through the rest of the sections to go back and review the one I just did. Here are some thoughts that I had while taking it. Number one, there were definitely a lot of times where my familiarity with the test bailed me out in terms of really quickly being able to identify what I was supposed to do. For example, that very last one I did, I'm still not sure if I got it right until I get to the review screen, but I knew that there was a pattern going on with the units digit of those exponents. And if you haven't seen one of those questions before, it's going to be very hard to identify that. So I think that shows the value of experience and the value of taking practice tests as well. So for any of you who go on to study, I do recommend taking like a couple practice tests at least, just so you increase the number of questions that you've seen, get familiar with the experience of the whole test, and build basically your repertoire of what do you know what to do with medium. I also didn't mention that that was a medium section. So I took that from, it was the first math section I saw as a student on that practice test, which means it was medium difficulty. So if you don't know this about the GRE, it has an adaptive element. When you switch from the first to the second section of each type, it will switch from medium to either hard, still medium, or easy, depending on how you did. If you did very well, it will switch you into a hard second section. If you did poorly, it will give you an easier one. And if you did medium, it'll give you. So I was able to finish that almost exactly on time while narrating. I think without narrating, I might have finished that section a little early. But I think if I did a very difficult section and tried to narrate it at the same time, I don't think I would finish on time, because there would be a lot of places where I would have to just shut down my speaking side of my brain and just go, you know. Okay. Okay, so I've gotten to my review screen. Oh, it just canceled on me. And it's going to say that I got a score that's quite low because I just did not even answer most of the questions outside of the section I just showed you. And I saw that I actually did get a few wrong. So I'm going to go back and try to diagnose my mistakes. Let's see. Here we go. So this is what the review screen looks like in our practice tests. Experimental. So it actually turns out I did what our test was calling the experimental section. It should have still been medium difficulty, but there's one additional section in each test. The reason why I got a 0th percentile is because all the questions I got right, it actually didn't give me credit for them in my final score because they were in the experimental math section. And I missed 3. So let's go see what they were. Okay. I'm going to try to remember what I did for each of these. Oh, I do see some questions that came into the chat. Thanks for sending us. Oh, and I'm sorry that the chat was disabled. That wasn't meant to be, but I guess you found the Q&A section to send me questions as well. All right, X is a positive integer, Y is a negative integer. Why did I get this wrong? I picked C. I thought that they were both going to be oh, I remember this. I remember this. I see it, and I see what I did wrong. Okay, so actually I shared my screen wrong. I should share my screen with the entire thing. Share screen, entire screen. Okay, I know I got this wrong, and I remember the moment where I asked myself the question that would have helped me get it right. Tell me if y'all remember this. Let me clear my space over here. I figured out that I tried, this is the one where I started right off the bat. I said, let's say X is 1, Y is -1. And I put in here like 1, or it would become -1 squared versus -1 to the 4th. And I was like, those are the same. And then I put in negative. I think what I then diagnosed is that this was always both going to be, we were either always going to get even in the exponents or odd. So I correctly diagnosed that the sign, either negative or positive, was always going to be the same from left to right. But that was an oversimplification, because if I just change this to -2, check it out, -2 squared, -2 to the 4th. That becomes 4. That becomes 16. Not all the same. B would win. So right away, that would prove that D should have been the answer. Not enough information. If any of you saw this as I was doing it, hope you didn't run away thinking, oh my gosh, my GRE teacher got the very first one wrong. I remember when I asked myself, is it going to matter if I switch it to -2 or -3 or something as the base? And I said no, because I unfortunately did a shortcut in my head. I was just thinking about the positive versus negative result. Okay, what else did I miss? That's a little disappointing. That one I'm like, I shouldn't have made that mistake. I'm giving myself a little grace because I haven't done this sort of exercise before of the description. But yeah, I wish I got that one. This one, on the other hand, is one of the ones that I said, you know what? I forget this formula sometimes. And the actual answer is that 1/3 is equal. Oh, no. And I see why. It's because I thought this one, it was not that I forgot a step. This is a classic. I misread the problem. I misread something about the problem. Did anyone spot it? I read it as x is 60. X is actually less than 60. So that would mean, remember, I switched it to a middle angle. And I said, well, it's going to be 120 because it's going to be half of 60. So I guess I was right about that one, but it would have actually been something less than 120, which would mean the arc over here would be something less than 1/3 of the circle, because it was less than 1/3 of the total degrees. To just fill in a couple of the extra things I didn't speak while I was doing it, 360 degrees is the whole circle. So if you're ever looking at 120 degrees, that's 1/3 of the circle. If you're ever looking at 90 degrees, that's 1/4 of the circle. Any angle, you can take the fraction out of 360, and that tells you what portion of the circle you're looking at if the angle is in the middle. Very, very helpful. I just messed up reading the description. Okay, so I'm honestly disappointed in that one as well, but I give myself, again, a little bit of forgiveness on that one. This is why, even though my personal score story, I have once on the real test gotten a perfect score on verbal, and once on the real test gotten a perfect score on quant, but never on the same day. And I've only done it once each, even though I've taken the test several times. I would never expect to get a perfect because it's just too hard to not mess up 40 times in a row. And I messed up a few times here. Okay, I missed one more. What did I do there? Point A and the x-intercept. Did I get a sign wrong? I'm surprised. I'm surprised by this one. I remember saying I felt pretty good about it. I'm going to draw it this time to see if that'll help me diagnose. Passes through the point A at -8, 5, so something like that. And has an x-intercept of 4. I did it as a y-intercept, I think. Yeah, I did it as a y-intercept. 4, yeah, I did. I did. Because actually, that is a distance of 12. Let me draw this. Let me draw this a little better. And now that I'm reviewing, I feel more comfortable using multiple colors, which I would not be able to do on the real thing. This distance is 12. That distance is 5. So it's actually, that hypotenuse is actually 12 squared plus 5 squared. Yeah, so I could see how that could lead to 13 instead of 8. All right, so there were my 3 mistakes. I would say one of them was an assumption, like I accidentally sort of took a shortcut. That was that first positives, negatives. I kind of thought it was a positive negatives question. It turned out to be not. It turned out to matter what value we got, not just whether it was positives and negatives. Then that middle one, I just totally misread one of the things that was there. And then this one, I read it right, but I kind of just did a little brain fart, I think, when I don't know what I wrote down, but I basically solved this as if it was the y-intercept right there. That's one that I think if I had taken my time to graph it like I just did, I would have gotten this one right. So that's one reason why one of the lessons we always say in geometry is draw it, draw it, draw it, draw it. I did not do it on this one, and it cost me the problem probably because if I drew this, I would have noticed I was doing my inverse axis. Okay, so there's 3 minutes left in our hour, so let me take a look at these chat questions. What difficulty level is the quant section? It's medium. I see when this came in, it was before I talked about the mediumness though. And then Jimmy, you also follow up to that. For instance, how often do you see a quant section with both a probability question and a combinatorics question? You could see that at any time, even though those are both rare topics. So that gets into a little bit about how the difficulty level is. A medium section does have some hard problems, including hard topics. Also, sometimes there's a topic we might kind of generically say is hard, like probability, where it's still possible to get an easy probability question, even though it's a harder topic because there's a lot of depth to it. But typically a medium section has the full range of easy to hard questions. And then what they do is that in the easy section, they just kind of cut out most of the hard ones. So you get kind of just easy and medium. And then in a hard section, they mainly just cut out most of the easy ones. So you just get medium and hard. So I would say on any medium or hard section, you could see both the combinatorics and the probability. I saw someone said I taught at least something new. I'm glad about that by simplifying across the equation. And I saw one person said, it seems like I need to memorize the prime numbers. Haha. Yes, a lot of questions in that particular section had to do with factoring prime numbers. That was the thing where I was doing the little skill of, let me just share one more time. Doing this little skill of, when I was saying like, okay, 24, what's that? 4 times 6. 4 is 2 times 2. 6 is 2 times 3. So take all those bottom points. 2 to the cube times 3 is the same as 24. That is called prime factoring. And it pays to be fast and accurate with prime factoring on the GRE. They just really like factor related questions for whatever reason. I'm pretty fast at it with things like 24. It comes with repetitions. You start to be able to spot the 6s and the 8s and the 4s as factors and everything. If we started getting higher numbers, though, I would get a lot slower at that factor. But yeah, that's a kind of a skill that you might not think of as a big one to know. All right, thanks y'all. Thanks for joining for this. I hope it was helpful. And if you're watching on YouTube, I hope this was helpful as well. If you have a question about anything that I did in the section, because I know I was going pretty fast talking and doing that, that was kind of stressful. I'm gonna go lie down on the couch for a few minutes after that. I know I went pretty fast in some points and didn't always explain every piece of what I did. If you have any questions, you can put it in the YouTube comments and we'll try to get back to you about it. So thanks for watching. I'm hoping to do one of these for the verbal section and maybe even the essay section later this year. So stay tuned for that. We might see the other sides of the GRE also done in this live action way. Thanks, y'all, and have a good night.